Welcome, I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute and your devil's advocate. Later on, we're going to talk about the investigations of sexual harassment under the Gold Dome. But first, you know him, you love him, you read him in Colorado politics. Miller Hudson, thank you for being here.
It's good to be here, John.
All right. A couple weeks ago, I had a couple Republican flacks taking a look at the Democratic run for governor. I thought, well, time for a good Democratic flack to handicap the Republicans. So, first of all, how do you feel that there's finally going to be a Democratic primary or Democrat primary?
It's a good thing. It's a good thing. You need to, scrub out the sink periodically. This is a way to do it.
There was a time that primaries helped the guy who won sharpen his saw.
Right.
I don't know if that's a case anymore, because the other side of it is you get beat up so much, there's no juice left afterwards, and there's already a negative narrative building on you that the other guy did, whether it's both ways Bob or whatever else.
Well, I think there's always that risk. Somehow this year, I think the Democrats are angry enough that they can overlook what happens in the race. They're going to be united going into November, whoever the winner is.
Whoever wins.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. It's hard to go through all the Republican candidates because there's some 28 of them, and the assembly is coming up,
right,
and that will have the amount. I'm trying to think who is petitioning on. Walker's petitioning on. Doug Robinson's petitioning on.
Right.
Victor Mitchell, I think, is petitioning on.
Yes, he is.
I know Cynthia Kaufman is going through the assembly, and I imagine everybody else is going through the assembly.
Right. Well, the only person in this race I think that can really challenge Walker Stapleton is Cynthia. But whether she can get the 30% she needs at the state convention, I can only guess at. I mean, I'm not that familiar with it. She is a formidable candidate once she's out on the stump. I watched her 4 years ago when she ran for Attorney General. She's a great debater. She has the ability to listen to people and answer the questions she's actually asked. I think she'll do very well.
Do you think Democrats are most scared of her as the in the general election?
I can't speak for everybody, but I certainly feel that way, that she would be the strongest candidate the party could field.
But she's got two huge hurdles. One, in a week and a half or so, she's got to go to a state convention of the assembly and get at least 30% of the vote. But there's 300 other candidates there now who will be vying for it, although she's got to be, I would think, the top name recognition of that group.
Undoubtedly, yeah. She would come in with the most, it might not be deep, but it would be wide support.
All right. If she wins that, which I think she will, I think that's a pretty easy bar for her to cross. How the hell does she win in a Republican primary? Remember, Republican primary voters are the ones who gave us Dan Mays. This is how in the world would she win compared to Walker, who I've got to put down as the favorite at this point?
Oh, I think he is the favorite, but we have this whole new untested process. If she can, she'll get at least 30% unaffiliateds voting in her primary. Now, if she can reach out and convince some women voters that lean Republican, some folks from the gay community where she's been active, she can still win this thing.
Where do you come up with a number of 30% unaffiliateds voting in the primary?
Now, I must confess, I'm only repeating what I've been told. Wait.
You've been smoking.
No, in Oregon and New Hampshire, when they introduced this, the first time they went through, about 30% of the voters in each primary were unaffiliated voters. And now in Oregon, it's like 40% of the voters in both parties
For those
are unaffiliated.
not following us, this will be the first test of getting unaffiliated voters who can vote in party primaries. But this time around, it's going to be two big primaries.
Yes.
So it could be a three-way primary on both sides. So an unaffiliated would think about this and go, which one do I want to vote in?
Yeah, but I mean,
so you're going to say if these guys get 30% and these guys get 30%, you're thinking about a whole lot of unelected or unregistered unaffiliated voters are going to care enough to do it when only 30% of Republicans vote in primaries anyway.
Right. Well, I'm not saying 30% of all. I'm saying that at the end of the day, the Republicans will have 30% of their total will be unaffiliated voters. And these are going to be those unaffiliated who lean conservative, who lean Republican, but don't choose to register as a Republican.
Or people who want to spoil the election and put up a candidate they think is unelectable.
That's possible, but
that happened with Dan. Let's be honest. That happened with Dan Mays, in that you had.
But it wasn't unaffiliated.
No, it was rich liberals who put in money for advertisements for Dan Mays and against. Oh my God, my memory's already going.
Scott McInnes.
And tipped it to his favor, because 500 grand worth of ads was a whole lot cheaper than millions of dollars in a campaign.
That's right.
It was a brilliant strategy.
So
now that the rich liberals played in the Republican primary, it's time for the Democrats and unaffiliateds to play as well.
Yes, it could. It could be, and it does not appear that either Robinson or the other
Victor Mitchell
are
Why not?
picking up any traction.
Well, you think that Cynthia's picking up traction? I mean, she's great on.
I think it's unknown. She has to get over this next hurdle.
I don't think she owns an issue yet that has given her something to go on. Walker's been working on para forever. The other guys are businessmen, and Cynthia is an attorney. She's not.
Right.
It's a different type of politician. She doesn't do what politicians do, which is make big, grandiose, bold statements.
Right.
That sing to the base. And until she does that, I think she's still floundering.
It's hard to say. I'm not a Republican, but
I'm not a Republican. I'm a happy person. Yes.
Yeah, but I look at it, and as I said, I've watched her on the stump, and she's personable. I think it's Dick Wadhams has always said, the starting point is your candidate needs to be likable.
Well, there goes all the Republicans.
and I think Cynthia meets that.
She does. And as a divorced woman, I would imagine from the Democrats' point of view, she would be a tough candidate in the fall.
Absolutely.
But she also needs money. Walker has money.
Right.
You know, if you're going up, I'm assuming going up against Jared Polis at this point. If the election were today, and things can change overnight, it's politics. You need somebody with pockets, and Walker might be that guy.
That's right. But politics today is a lot more uncertain than it was even 5 or 6 years ago. You know, they used to say if you got outspent more than 3-1, you couldn't win. Well, we've seen several elections recently.
We've seen a president.
We've seen a president and others. The young man in Pennsylvania who just got elected to Congress was outspent 19-1, and he still won. So if Cynthia gets on the ballot, she'll have enough money to be competitive in that primary.
All right, so we're looking at a Republican primary that will for certain have Walker, Victor Mitchell, Doug Robinson, and I'm assuming Cynthia Kaufman. Right. But there's room coming out of that assembly for two more Republicans technically.
Right.
I mean, we could be looking at a 6-way primary.
That's very unlikely. It would be my guess.
All right, so we're looking at least a 4-way primary. That's what I'm saying.
That's right.
Unless one of the guys.
But the Democrats will have 3 for sure, possibly 4.
So why do you feel that Robinson and Victor Mitchell, who are already up and doing stuff, why don't they get the traction? From your point of view.
Well, from my point of view is that, first off, I don't think anybody knows who Robinson is. You know, I don't, except that he's the nephew of Mitt Romney.
There's also Barry Farah. Is it Barry? No. Yes, the new one, the guy who just put in right now.
The guy who just jumped in.
Oh my God! Yeah. Trust me, it's not you. It's me.
It's a little late. Mitchell, I'm not sure that this is the election year when I would say that what we really need in the governor's office is a businessman. I mean, I think one of the handicaps that Jared Polis has in a way is it's not a good year to be an eccentric, self-involved billionaire running for office.
So, I know we're going to talk about who wins the Democratic primary.
Right.
It's still Jared?
No, I don't think that that's a sure thing at all.
Really?
I could make a case, we don't have time, for all three of the leading candidates, how they could win, how Kerry Kennedy could get it done, although she has the financial challenge that Cynthia has. Mike Johnston, I think, is the candidate who's lurking in the bushes, who has plenty of money, and once he starts to make his run, I think he's going to beat Jared around the head and shoulders on the gun control issue because of his vote against.
Well, when you have $1 million coming in from your buddy Bloomberg, but let's remember how Coloradans feel at the end of the day when it comes to coming after our guns. That's a third rail in this state. That
that's a general election problem. It's not a problem in a Democratic primary.
Well, you agree, it's a general election problem.
Yeah.
So from my point of view, you're telling me what we need is Mike Johnson to win, wrap themselves around collecting all the guns, and then Cynthia to win, and who wins?
Who wins that? Oh, I think it's a flip a coin.
Who wins if it's Walker?
I actually think Mike can beat Walker. Walker, and this is all supposition, but from many of the Republicans I talked to, he doesn't have as many friends as he thinks he has. Let's put it that way.
Coming from a guy who has no friends at all, you should talk about that. Miller, thank you. Stay tuned.